Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily this lovely Thursday morning. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
I don't know what the climate is saying around you there, but it's 28 degrees here in Lagos, and it's 29th day in the month of January 2026. Once again, welcome to the show.
Well, it appears that there might be a lot more focus on the industrial climate, Ayo. And so, doesn't exactly look that clear as of yet. Well, we all remember that not long ago, the industrial court here in Abuja did rule that protesting workers in the FCT resume work. And then subsequently, the minister of the FCT, leveraging on that judgment, said, resume work immediately or face consequences, including a sack. Of course, lots of people thought that, well, okay, you have to obey the court order. But at the moment, there's been several press releases from the Joint Unions Action Committee, that's the JUAC, those who are protesting. And the highlight of their press release was titled Reinforcement Directive for Continuation of the Strike Action. So they did speak on the industrial court ruling, but they did say that the union, through its lead counsel, Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has filed an appeal against that decision of the Industrial Court on interlocutory rule. The Joint Union Action Committee therefore directs as follows. A, that the strike continues as earlier declared by the JUAC. B, that staff are encouraged to stay at home to continuously participate in daily prayers for the success of the strike. That is not the only release making the rounds concerning that matter. Nigeria Union of Teachers, FCT Wing Abuja, equally issuing a press statement as well. Reinforcement directive to all primary, secondary school teachers in the FCT, also asking the same thing, continue with the strike. So it just tells you, yeah, we can blow our cheeks. It's not all over at the moment, because who knows where all of this will go. So we'll keep tabs on that and see what happens. Will negotiations continue, or will they wait until that appeal sails through? Who knows? But speaking about which, about protest, yeah, some developments in Lagos. But, you know, philosophers will be quick to remind us that Plato warned us centuries ago through the words of Thrasymachus in the Republic, that's his book, that when justice is nothing else than the interest of the stronger, society descends into tyranny or force. That appears to be the case from several people's perspective. Ringing out loud in Lagos, they thought, yes, they've seen homes demolished in Makoko and different other areas. I mean, seemingly in defiance of the court order. We know that Mr. Falana was here on the program as well, saying that those demolitions were illegal and should be stopped immediately. But there was protest yesterday in Lagos about this matter, and then the police, yes, they were there, but the highlights, which appears to be what lots of people equally saw, was tear gas and some arrests. There were images of certain persons too circulating, not exactly in the best of shape. So is this might is right governance or what? How did things get to this? How did they degenerate to this? Ayo has got to start that conversation this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain. You know, first of all, the substantive issue is the issue of demolitions. And as we have discussed here on Channels Television a few times, it's not a new thing altogether. But it would seem like in this case, the playfield moved away from the areas to a totally different area, particularly perhaps to get the attention of the state government. And of course, naturally, we've heard the name and voice of the Commissioner of Police in Lagos on that same matter. And he's here with us in the studio, Mr. Olorundare Jimoh. He's here in the studio with us. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, but We have seen, if you want to just give us an explanation, we've seen videos of people who are allegedly shot by policemen, your men in Lagos, and one of them was even saying, look, take this fellow to Lagoon Hospital, and you've also confirmed that it is here there's one here in Ikeja as well, and all of that. So please, if you want to give us a background exactly what happened, because we know that this is supposed to be protests about the demolitions ongoing that the residents are not they're not happy about, and it will seem like government has been silent on them, but here comes the police.
Thank you so much. So first of all, take it from your last expression that people were shot. None. No gun was fired throughout the entire process of the protests yesterday. What we use is the minimum force of using the tear gas smoke to dispatch them. We moving on time at the Ikeja Bridge to provide security for them so that hoodlum and miscreant don't go in. But we equally have intelligence reports that hoodlum and miscreant, some of them carry dangerous weapons, are already in their midst. The protests by Makoko residents have been usual, and we have been deploying, which would fall under Adekunle Division, under Area C command. The area commander and the men have been going there talking to them, and they've been very peaceful in their protests. So far, so good. And at different times, they've gone to the House of the Lagos State House of Assembly in this protest. Equally, the Oworo Shoki people have equally been to the House of Assembly, and they have received them, they have listened to them. Then, of note equally, is the other group of people that are from Owode Oniri, which their matter is extensively being dealt with, and they are quite aware of this. But yesterday, unknown groups surfaced and muster all these three groups together and start chanting one song and moving towards the House of Assembly, blocking the entire of Awolowo Way to the House of Assembly Road into the House of Assembly. People were trapped in traffic. People who have medical condition. We even have reports of people who fainted in their cars and they were rushed for medical help. Protest is good. We know protest is freedom of expression and dignity to one person are part of the essential of democracy. And for every protest that happened in Lagos, we have policed the protest in a peaceful way because the protesters were equally peaceful in their conduct. They didn't obstruct other road users. They did not obstruct other Nigerians from having means to their livelihood. So to conclude, if you allow me,
yes.
No gun was fired. I was there. If you see part of the video that you play, you see me appealing to them for the need for them to be peaceful. And they still continue to rain abuses on me. But I work under pressure as a police officer, trained to work under this kind of pressure. I did not react. And we speak with the leadership of the House of Assembly, who promptly, that's why they are in recess, sent in 5 honorable members to still come and appeal to them. And they came out to appeal to them. But still it fell on deaf ear after the dialogue with them. Because their aim is to enter into the House of Assembly and cause mayhem, which will not allow to happen.
So government will have to still speak to this issue, even though they've been making effort. It will seem like, it's not getting home to the people. So when you say, and I think you have also seen the videos of the claims of people being shot and all of that with bullet wounds and all. If it is not bullet wounds, what do you think it is?
Thank you so much. When tear gas are fired, people run to leave the scene where the tear gas is being fired to dispatch them. It is in the process that some must have sustained injury. But to our record, nobody has reported to us during the time of dispatching them using tear gas after they have been warned to dispatch. And if they don't dispatch according to word of proclamation, if they didn't dispatch, they'll be dispatched by force. They were equally warned. Then it was later in the day that one of the activists, I don't want to mention her name, went to the area commander and said people were admitted there to. And the area commander went there and they discovered that it wasn't a bullet wound. It wasn't at all. Because the person they were even carrying his 2 legs. You see, there's not any impact of blood or anything. There's no way you can sustain bullet wound without impact of blood. You even fainted. You'll be taken away with a stretcher. So it is for them to weigh in sentiment from the public by saying a rifle or gun were fired. It's purely tear gas that were used, minimally, to dispatch them.
Now, you also said that hoodlums joined this campaign. How do you know they were were hoodlums and not the people just being impatient with government?
Yes, we have on record the people of Makoko. Like I told you, there are people we meet with on daily basis and we know them at Makoko area, in Nadekunle, in Yaba. We've been interfacing with them and they've been listening to us. Equally, the Owode Oniri. Even in the Owode Oniri case, I can identify them one after the other because they've been meeting with me. What happened there is a sorry story, and the Inspector General of Police have directed a full-scale investigation. After the investigation, they have returned all those policemen that are not even from Lagos State Police Command, that were brought in by a suspected land grabber, and they are in the process of being prosecuted along with the land grabber. And we keep them on daily basis on the update. So we know them. And we equally know the people of Oworo because some of them, very enlightened and educated, have come to my office. And the state government have made evidences to the media, including the channel television, of the payment of compensation to them. And they've been coming to my office. So we know all those people. But the people that mustered them for the purpose of their own intention.
But
and
who are these people?
That's where I'm going to. This would go because the protest starts from the Ikeja under bridge. And when protests commence, is for you to show your grievances in a peaceful manner, for you to be heard. In Ikeja under bridge, they even wanted to co-opt school children. And we advised them, school children are underage people. They may not have the strength to walk that distance. Some of them might collapse, some of them might have problems, and they listen to us. But they still did some recording about the school children, hearing their view, and which they have been circulating on social media. That's to say they were allowed the laxity. But as a movement go on, we have it on record. People who are wearing the somebody that have been sent, already tried and convicted, they are wearing his t-shirt, underneath the t-shirt that they are wearing. And we even have it on information among them that some of them are armed with pistols. So if you have this intelligent information, which I may not be able to divulge the details in the national television, we can't allow such to search into the assembly. So their grudges is that the House of Assembly member have briefed them, but they want to enter into the House of Assembly. What do you need in the House of Assembly? Is it not the people that are there that you needed to talk to? And when you block the road and prevent other Nigerians, because your rights stop where other rights, whether other people's rights begin. I can't be allow it under my watch where people will continue to suffocate and faith in their vehicles. Okay. Some were rushed to the hospital because of the activities of these few miscreants that caused the blockage of Awolowo Road into the House of Assembly Road yesterday.
Yeah. Chamberlain also has a question or two for you. Go ahead, Chamberlain.
Yeah, so just wondering, I mean, you've been at this for a while, so you know some of the practices and probably consequences of this kind of actions when they're tear gassed. So, is this the best way that the police could have handled the protesters? I know you know about use of water cannons by the police to also peacefully disperse them, because some people may be susceptible to tear gas. There could be even fatal consequences concerning all of this. So, isn't there water cannon as opposed to using tear gas?
Thank you so much. If you watch the video, you say that we have a water cannon on standby at the Lagos State House of Assembly. But the impact of the water cannon can be more devastating because they are hot water, extremely hot water, which can even cause burns. It can get people to get blind. It can cause a lot of other hazard. But the effect of tear gas smoke is within 5 to 10 minutes, and the effect is gone. So the minimum force we can use at that point in time is the tear gas smoke canister to be able to disperse them promptly. And they were dispersed, and immediately the road were open to public use. And I want you to know that the public interest override any other interest, including that of the police, including that of the protester. So we shouldn't take loss into our hand by blocking the road. So I want to make it abundantly clear that we use minimum force. No rifle was fired. No any gun were fired. If they were fired, you hear the gunshot. Because the media were there when the tear gas, they were warned. After they are warned before the tear gas were fired, they will have got it on record. So anybody that is creating sentiment anywhere, the law has its ways. Sentiment is a different thing. So we don't want people to start creating sentiment that we use excessive force. No, we use the minimum force. You have not seen in the videos, I challenge anybody to bring out where they see either policemen using club or using sticks or beating any of the protesters. Okay. What we use is the minimum force of the tear gas.
Were there any arrests made yesterday?
Yes, we arrested 2 individuals because, like I said, the protester, if you start bringing coffin and start using truck to block the public highway, that is violating the right of millions of other Nigerians. So we arrested Taiwo Hassan, who is an adult, and equally arrested Dele Frank, who were in the Canter Toyota lorry that was used to block the highway. That is why we arrested them, for causing hardship on the people, conduct likely to cause breach of the peace, and other acts that can lead to breakdown of law and order in Lagos State, which I have a responsibility under the Constitution to ensure law and order in Lagos State as it is deemed fit in the circumstance. And we equally take into custody the coffin, which we have equally made in a press release that they brought. Who do they want to bury in the coffin? That means they are prepared to kill people, because if you are bringing out a coffin, that means you have ulterior motive for what you want to use a coffin for. It is unknown in this part of the world where protesters will carry coffin to the venue of protest. And so these 2 individuals are being investigated. They're supposed to have been in court yesterday, but because the time for the court, the statutory time was exhausted before the investigation were concluded. So they have their court they have their day in court today. So, and the court is a place where everybody will be heard. So let them say their side, let the police too say their own part of the story. But we will not allow any individual or group of individuals to cause commotion, pandemonium, or other breakdown of law and order in anywhere in Lagos.
How about those people that you said they had other intentions other than the demolitions? Were there any arrests made of those ones?
Those are the people. Oh. Because these Taiwo Hassan and Dele Frank were the people that used the truck to block the highway. Because after the House of Assembly members, 5 of them, distinguished members, respected individuals, came and talked to them. I think that should be enough for them to now retrieve and go back. But they still insist that because of their own ulterior motive to penetrate the security of the House Assembly, to unleash mayhem. So we have responsibility under the law to protect life and property. The life of all millions of other Nigerians that are not part of the protest must be respected and must be protected. Equally, public and private property must be respected. So far so good. No death was recorded, because if anybody has suffered a bullet wound injury, by now they will have shown you the surgery that is being carried out on such individuals.
So just to be clear, the point you're making is the protests in Ikeja yesterday were not to do with the Makoko demolitions. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying in essence is that the group of Makoko were mustered by this unknown group.
Makoko to Ikeja is quite a length of time to just muster them for nothing.
No. You can't be trekking from Makoko to Ikeja. It's not just possible. People were ferrying in buses to Ikeja on that bridge, and we didn't restrict them from coming down. People from Oworu too were ferrying buses. But what we are saying is that those who mustered them have their own ulterior motive, which is to ensure that they render the state unpeaceful and to disturb public order and ensure that things doesn't go well. And that is what we went out to protect.
Clearly, as you said, it's a developing story, and other issues are going to arise in good time. Thank you so much for your time and for the clarity you've given us on this issue this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Lauren Darijimo is the Commissioner of Police in Lagos. We appreciate your time one more time.
Thank you so much.
Chamberlain.
All right, so let's move on to the next item we've got for here. The National Judicial Council says public participation in the appointment of judges is working, even claiming that some candidates have already been filtered out through public petitions. But filtered out by whom, based on what evidence, and under what rules? Does this process strengthen accountability, or does it open the judiciary to pressure, political pressure, and unverified allegations? With trust in the judicial system already on the strain, these questions matter. So joining us now is Mr. Adamson Adeboro, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, to discuss some of these matters. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, the NJC says public participation in appointment of judges is working. So I know there might be some skeptics about, how do we really say that that is working?
The issue of whether there's problem in the judiciary is no longer an issue of debate. It's an issue that has been admitted. And if you recall, when the current CJN was being screened at the National Assembly, he did say that it is not, all is not well with the judiciary. In other words, it's just to say that, oh, there's a problem, we acknowledge there's a problem, we admit it. But we will take it will take a bold step to ensure that we tackle it. And she promised a far-reaching reforms in the judiciary. And part of it is what we are seeing by saying that, look, the issue of appointment of judicial officers will be made public, just like the way the appointment of Senior Advocate of Nigeria is. That let the public have a say. In other words, if somebody is shortlisted to be appointed as judicial officer, then the public can make comment, whether negatively or positively. So this is a welcoming development. This is the first time this is done. And, you know, when it came, a lot of people expressed skepticism that, oh, we only hear all this. Will it happen?
That's when it was said?
That was when the CJN promised that the appointment of judicial officers will be made public. Because, you know, the general notion in Nigeria is that, oh, it's now, appointment of judges is now an exclusive reserve of the lawyers, of whether the judicial officers who are in high rank or governors of the high-placed persons in Nigeria. But we don't promise that, don't worry. We're going to be fair, so that you will see it, we're going to be transparent. And today, we have seen what is happening. And first of all, you see some of them, of recent, we read in the news, how some people were filtered out as a result of petition against their candidations. And as we speak, there is one going on, the elevation of judges from to the Court of Appeal. And that has been made public. Now, people have been invited, to make their comments, whether positively or negatively, about the conditions of those that are to be elevated to the Court of Appeal.
Do we know how many candidates were screened out as a result of the petitions from the public?
Yeah, I cannot be too certain here, but it's a large number. Because out of about something of them, only 14 or so were eventually taken.
Okay,
but a lot of them had issue. One particularly was alleged to have taken a bribe of 1 million naira. And because of that, somebody who had taken a bribe is a dangerous species. If you allow that person to sit as a judicial officer, and it was filtered out. So
what happened in that case? Is it just going to stop at with the allegation, or are they going to?
No, it's definitely there'll be investigation. You know, you see, our system be what we hear. Anybody can write a petition out of vendetta to say, oh, I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
So if the authorities receive such petition, they will confirm the veracity of the information.
So what's the criteria?
The principle of fair hearing will be given to the party.
So what's the criteria to filtering people out, especially if you could predicate that based on what you just said, that there could be fictitious petitions?
Yeah. You see, remember that this is not a one-man show.
Yeah.
It's a group of persons who will sit on those petitions to filter them, to look at those petitions to see, oh, then perhaps invite the affected person to put or to defend himself. This is a petition against you. What's your take on it? So you know, otherwise you breach the principle of audio attendant party. Listen to the other party. You must hear the other party before you take a decision. So I believe that should be done.
So were there any published anonymized petition so that the public can actually see that really and truly these kind of things came through?
That will not be made public. That's the business.
Well, no, that's why I say anonymized.
That can be suggested to the council, NJC.
Okay.
But as of today, we don't know how the whole procedure. It's an internal thing that is conscripted to them. So what is made public is what we are saying here. So what's the method they adopted? But what I know is that there is a principle in law that when there's an allegation against a person, that person must be given the right to be heard. So, if that is not done, then it's a violation of his fundamental rights.
So how do we draw the line between making these appointments maybe like a popularity contest rather than a merit-based system? Because they could just flow into each other.
No, I don't believe in popularity contest.
No, I mean, it could eventually, perhaps, an unintended consequence of what they are trying to do, to achieve.
I don't believe that. You see, to me, it should be based on merit. In those days, lawyers who go to argue before a court can even be nominated based on that alone. Though I've seen the performance of this man, why can't he be appointed? So to me, appointment as a judicial officer should be on merit, purely. No extraneous factors should be put in. If you merit it, irrespective of where you come from, you should be given. Whether you are the son of the president, you are the son of CJN, or whoever you may be, as soon you are once you are qualified, then you should be given.
We have heard several times, you alluded to it in passing when you say there was a petition that one of them was said to have collected a bribe of 1 million naira.
Yeah.
But we hear that often, that some of them actually collect way more than that to determine different cases. So is there any attempt to actually make sure that, look, this allegation cannot be swept under the carpet? Yes, this can be a one-off, but let us get back to scrutinizing the process and see if it's actually going on much more than we think in the judiciary.
You see, anybody can make any allegation. But ability to substantiate your allegation is what is key here. I can sit down here and say, oh, Mr. Chibali said this and that. Then report it to the authority, you have said so. You must be able, or I must be able, to prove what I've alleged. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if you allege that a particular judge is corrupt, you should be good enough to report that judge. And there's a mechanism in place that once a judicial officer has heard that there are procedures to be followed, you write a petition, you verify, you file the affidavit of verification to verify what you have stated, that you are not writing a frivolous application. And that application will be considered on the merit. And once you are correct, then the appropriate action will be meted out.
As a practitioner yourself, have you not heard that allegation before?
There are several allegations. That's what I'm saying. But if you make you are making an allegation, and just to say, oh, this, what I'm saying is you must be able to prove it. Otherwise, anybody can.
Yeah, I get the point.
Rise up and write any petition against
anybody. You, when you hear them?
Yeah.
Because I know you heard them not more than once, several times.
Several.
So do you dismiss them with a wave of hand?
Why should I dismiss? What I'm saying is, it is what I've experienced.
The bribery allegation?
It is what I've experienced I can't say. What I've not experienced, I can't come here and be saying it. So if somebody has said it, it means that person has experienced it personally. So that person must be able to prove it. That's what I'm saying.
What is the mechanism to prove some of these things? What are the procedures?
The procedure is clear. You have an encounter. And what you take a step to say, oh, this also judge took bribe from me. And you write a petition to NJC.
But how do I report that if the law says both the giver and the taker will be culpable?
So who is to be blamed here? So the two of you at fault. You see, that is the problem.
Yeah,
the judiciary cannot be in isolation of the society. If the society is rotten, if the society is bad.
That may be the case.
That is why the CJN has come up to say, look, we are going to satisfy the judiciary. We are leading by example.
Well, several CJNs have made that comment. Yet you still hear this kind of allegations. But isn't that...
But this one is taking steps, and you have seen it. And some of the past CJN have done it, and we have seen the evidence.
We have even heard people say that to even get your cases listed in courts, they have to sort themselves.
This is part of the reform going on under the new leadership of the Supreme Court. To say, no, the case management, the Supreme Court now, is now harmonized, unlike before. So you don't just get, because if you file a case today, they call your case maybe in the next 2 months. Why a case of that have been filed since 2020 is still pending? They said, no, we don't want that. We want to systematically, arrange ourselves and do it accordingly. So it's an issue of time. So we'll give the CJN time to do what she has commenced.
How much time are we going to
No,
give
it's working. That's just go to the Supreme Court anyhow. This day you can't get dates like before, that people can just go there, do whatever they want and get dates in one out of time. But today, you follow procedure. And this entire system has been now harmonized, and even digitized. That's to show you that we are moving on.
In other words, how do people notice and see this? How does this reflect on the judgments that have been delivered? These changes you say has happened now. Because usually, they still say cases spend a lot of time in courts.
Yes. Nobody is saying that we have a perfect system now. Nobody is saying that. I won't come here and say that we have a perfect system. But I'm saying that gradually, we are resolving our problems. We are getting to the promised land. But as of today, we still have cases in the Supreme Court that have been there for years. Still there. Nobody will tell you that, that's not, we are in Eldorado. We have arrived. Nobody's saying that. But we are saying that, you see, the entire system has become so bad that one person cannot resolve the whole problem. The current CJN, God forbid that you be able to resolve the entire problem in the judiciary. But once a foundation is laid, the subsequent CJN will follow. And there we have a track record, a working system that you cannot even close your eyes to when you become a CJN. So that is the issue. The ability to take the decision, the ability to start, is what we are talking here.
So are you saying that these measures that have been put in place will ultimately have its impact to the extent that cases will not be that long even at the Supreme Court?
Of course, but we will go further. You see, some of us have advocated that, look, some of the cases in the Supreme Court have no business being there. For example, divorce, matrimonial matters, what is it doing in the Supreme Court, and some other matters like that. You see, but for you to do that, you need a law. Supreme Court actions or procedures are product of law. So we need to go to the National Assembly to amend the Supreme Court part to limit the division of the Supreme Court to certain matters, just like we have in the election petition. When you talk about State House Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, at the head as Court of Appeal. So those are the system that we have to, it's one step after the other. You cannot just put the whole thing at the same time to get it resolved.
Is it going to be limited to just laws, or they will have to set up probably regional Supreme Courts or something to ensure that the Supreme Court is not burdened with cases like this? Some have suggested land matters can go to regional Supreme Court. The ones who suggested can go to regional cases, but at the federal level, there should be specific cases there.
You see, I don't share that opinion. Why I don't share that opinion is because we have Court of Appeals. Okay, in all the regions and that deal with all this matter, and whoever is aggrieved with the Court of Appeal decision in a matter that constitutionally there is a right to appeal to the Supreme Court, can go to the Supreme Court. But my own position, my own belief is that we limit number of matters or the certain matters that can go to the Supreme Court. Once we get that done, then the docket, the filing docket of the Supreme Court will reduce drastically. So the issue of regional Supreme Court, I don't share that opinion. I don't.
So in terms of these changes now, is it stipulated in the laws or somewhere that this is here to stay, so that not when another CJN comes, the person comes up with their own method of doing things?
I've told you. You see, the powers of NJC is embedded in the Constitution. It's a constitutional matter. So if the head of the Supreme Court has come to this is how I want it done, it becomes a convention, become a practice. So as it goes on, then the subsequent CJN can follow suit. But I'm saying that the continuous adoption of what is happening is what is material here. Oh, this standard has been laid. Let's follow this standard. You know, but as per the power of NJC, it's not the CGN that is doing that. It's in conjunction with others who constitute or comprise the NJC.
You know, when the part about corruption in the judiciary, it's a sore thumb, whether it's an allegation or not. But if it keeps coming up time and again, and people run away with that impression, you know that there is a challenge. Should we leave it to probably the NJC, or should we have some sort of independent body to look at these matters? Because it won't be easy for somebody who says, from listing your cases, you have to sort out. From getting your judgment delivered, you have to sort out. From getting dates for your cases to come up, you have to do something about that. So if somebody is faced with all that hurdle, they won't go and report themselves. Say, look, I had no choice. I had to give this to make sure this is done. So if there's an independent body to look at this matter, somehow they may have confidence in that body, as opposed to just saying, look, how do we even know the NJC will not perhaps cater to what the authorities want?
You yourself, you said here clearly, both the giver and taker have violated the law. If that's the case, see, the approach is simple. If you go to a court and somebody is asking for money outside the prescribed fees, you say no, stand your ground and say no. That's how to make the system work.
But those that have said no, yes, they've seen their cases be there for decades.
And that is why we are telling you, for instance, now, that all these things are being looked into. It will not take, it's not something that just do overnight. You have to put a system in place to correct those anomalies. To see what we can do, that you don't even have to go and meet anybody. You don't need to go and see anybody before your case is listed. That's the system we're talking about here. That's part of the reform. So once you can get that done, then all this issue we're talking about, you see, in advanced countries, you don't even have to have contact with them there. So
yeah, but there's somebody that will say imputes those things now. So that human element, that human interface, is still a challenge.
No, say Nigeria factor.
It's not every Nigerian.
It's our value system.
It's not every Nigerian. There's still Nigerians who do the right things all the time.
Thank God. So it's the value system. If your value system has collapsed, then who are you blaming? Is it only judiciary that has this kind of problem? It's all the segment of the society. Go to anywhere, it's the same problem. But even judiciary on its own, out of the three arms of government, it's the only judiciary where they set up the mechanism to correct themselves. To punish all the hearing officers or those that are apprehended. So, do you have that in executive? Do you have that in legislative arm? So that's the issue we're talking about.
They don't call themselves the noble profession.
That's why we're noble.
That's why
we're leading by example.
That's why you can't compare that arm with other arms. That arm has to stand out.
It's a work in progress. That's what I'm telling you. It's a work in progress, and I want Nigeria to have so that we can restore the confidence of judiciary in the public.
But what happens? Is there any mechanism, for instance, if people look at a particular judge delivering a certain judgment, and I know that you might have heard of the previous cases where a judge is really angry and delivers judgment, and it really comes across as though the judge is delivering this judgment based on anger in court, and justice is not seen to have been done, even though the judge thinks that justice has been done. Does the bar look at that? Does NJC look at that and say, wait a minute, something seems to have been off here?
Do you know that we have a hierarchy of courts? If, for instance, you go to high court and you see the countenance of the judge, and perhaps it's not reflected in the judgment, that's the essence of appeal. And if you call the appellate court to review the evidence as extrapolated in the judgment, perhaps that judgment can be set aside based on, because judgment must not be based on speculation. It has to be based on the evidence, the fact before the court, the document before the court, the evidence led before the court.
As we wind down, I've been trying to remember the name. I hope I don't get it wrong when I say this. I don't know if it was Justice Wite. At the point recently, I think it was the Malami's case, and he said, don't approach me. I am unapproachable. If you do certain things, it was him, right? Yes. And he said, don't you dare So for a judge to go that far to say that, doesn't that buttress some of those things that people you may have heard saying, look, even senior lawyers approach judges on behalf of their clients to tamper justice and maybe look the other way. These are pointers, aren't they?
You see, that is exactly what I'm saying here. It depends on individual. If you don't want to be compromised, you stand your ground. Nigeria judicial.
The way the judge stood his ground.
Yes.
So is that bad? To approach a judge?
No. What right have you to approach the judge? Once the court is on you, once the judge is sitting on your case, you don't have any communication with him.
Yeah, but it happens. That's why you have to say that.
This is what I'm saying, sir. This profession, Nigeria profession, at a point, was one of the most enviable judiciary in the world.
At a point.
At a point. But it plummeted. And that is concerned everybody that, oh, look, this is not what we were. How do we resolve the problem? In those days, even in the military era, you can see some judges, they will stand their ground. We have seen those who thrown in the tower because they could not be compromised. And they will say they will not succumb. The judiciary must be independent. So, and that is the essence of the reform we are talking about. Who do you put there? What criteria do you follow in putting that person there? Will it be a person that will be compromised? Or that will shaken out when at the side of the little...
Many are looking to see, will that day ever come where either a chief judge or a CJN will look their appointer in the eye and deliver judgment no matter whose ox is gored?
It is happening.
We saw in Kenya, but we haven't seen it in Nigeria before,
because it's not
where a president is sacked as a result of election malpractice. We've never seen it here before.
Because even there's no reason to do that. If there's a reason to do that, I know that we have some courageous judges who will do that. Don't generalize the whole thing. There are some outstanding judges, brilliant judges in Nigeria.
But there are some
courageous.
Of course there are. I mean,
so they are there. So
and
that is why.
But there are several bad eggs as well.
There what?
There are several bad eggs.
Several bad eggs, and that is the extent of the reform. I say, look, once we identify them, get them out. And that's what the CJ is doing.
All right, elections are approaching, so these allegations will come up again. So we're hoping that these reforms will stand the test of time with those and then wipe it out so that people can indeed see that justice is not just done, but seen to have been done.
The election is almost there. In fact, from this year, the election matters will go to court.
Yeah.
And I know the judiciary will be in the heights of the public.
I tell you.
So basically, we'll see whether the reform is working, or whether anything is done, or it is not done, and what is the effect. We'll begin to see.
All right. Well, thank you for coming.
But the most important thing is, if you see and close your eyes, you have no right to complain. Then again, if you participate, remember, you are a co-accomplice. Then you go together.
Mr. Adamson Adeboro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you for your time this morning. Well, back in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back to Sunrise. Yes, as you've seen there, Mr. Lalo Akonde joins us this morning, former presidential aide and host of Inside Sources here at Channels. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Timberley.
So we have quite a number of issues that played out, and still playing out this week. Let's start off with the Senate, for instance, where the Senator Ningi is talking about this U.S. strike in Nigeria and procedural matters which they should consider. What's your thought about how this is going on?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a fair request of the National Assembly as a body to be properly briefed about, Nigeria's understanding between Nigeria and the U.S. regarding the airstrike. I think Senator Ningi is right to say that, some of those things ought to include the National Assembly. The National Assembly ought to be carried along. I mean, if you follow the debates even in the U.S., you see that this tension also even exists between the U.S. Congress and the White House on the powers of the president to deploy force, powers of war and stuff like that. So I think it's a reasonable issue that Senator Ningi is tabling to say that, look, you guys need to give us information about this. And I think they are on the right path, I imagine that the Senate President has said that it's a matter that has to be discussed off camera. but certainly, you know, it's something that they should be aware of. I mean, it was a major event, you know, and it had questions around our sovereignty, even though I personally support us working with the Americans, you know, to help us deal with the terrorists, because we need every help we can get. But I think it's reasonable for the executive to carry along the National Assembly in that matter.
So in that regard, I mean, because chances are that when this kind of matter comes up, you definitely may have certain persons who will say, nope, we do not want the strike to happen, especially if they say, my constituents don't support this kind of strike. And if it gets to that debate and stalls debate, whereas, you know, you have a lot of other people who think this should happen. Isn't that likely going to be some sort of hiccup in the entire matter?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why, you know, so issues of security and intelligence, you know, it's understood that it can be discussed, you know, off camera, in secrecy, so that the sensitivity of it does not get compromised, you know. But I think in terms of determining the national security priorities of the federal government, the executive arm of government does have, you know, the highest responsibility for that, you know. So even if people have objections about it, you know, part of the powers that has been conferred on the executive arm of government is to give them the, you know, the right to do these things on behalf of the people, with the fact that, well, the president was elected by the people. So in his term, he's expected to be doing stuff. That's why there's a lot of public trust. When you are sworn as president or governor, you carry the fact that your people are behind you. They elected you. So that gives you the legitimacy to take these actions. So yes, you know, there may be parts of the country or the state that may not agree with what you are doing, to the extent that, you know, you have a constitutional mandate and you have that legitimacy. You know, you can go ahead and do what you believe is right for the country. You
know, when it has to do with security, they always talk about how sensitive these matters are.
Yeah.
So, and then even the security services themselves might think, because, I mean, that allegation as to perhaps some elements in the army leaking information to Boko Haram terrorists when the U.S. was collaborating with Nigeria some time ago.
Right.
That might still linger in the mindset of certain people. What do you think the National Assembly or Senate may be comfortable with? Is it for the presidency or executive to them before the action, during the action, or after it's happened?
Exactly. Yeah, you're raising very sensitive matters, Timberlake, because I don't pretend to be an expert myself in managing you know, some of those very sensitive security things, because, you know, of the sensitive nature of it. You know, even in the U.S., like I said, these tensions exist, that, you know, you should tell us, the Congress says, let's know what you're going to do before you attack Iraq, before you go and pick Maduro, before you even do all these strikes all over the place. And at times, the executive will say that, look, some of these things you cannot compromise, you know. So at times, some of the things that I've noticed in the U.S. is that just by the time that the thing is happening, before it goes out publicly, before everybody finds out, you know, there's a detachment of information that goes to the U.S. Congress, you know, so that there is not enough time for any potential sabotage. So these are things that have to be sorted out behind the scenes, you know, so that, and you raised a very good point that it had happened before the Nigerian military was working with the U.S. military, and the U.S. military felt they were betrayed because of information that was leaked. So I think it's just to make it as close as possible, prevent any opportunity for sabotage, but at the same time, bring the National Assembly, at least some of the select intelligence people and the leadership to some kind of confidence.
Ayo.
Well, Mr. Akande, you would be able to relate with this a little more because, I mean, as a former presidential aide and managing communication around such things would definitely be a thing. The trip of the president to the U.S., despite whatever, achievements or pluses or upside it may have, was that just one taint of the president stumbling, and a number of people are making a meal of it, unfortunately. I've also listened to Madam Abike Dabiri, seen a report crediting, telling us that she was like, look, guys, even the Turkish media is calling our reaction, our own reaction to our president, you know, in that state, silly. In terms of the communication, I'd like you to speak to it. How would you say the presidency has done with it? What's your measure of how we as a people are reacting to that occurrence?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think to the extent that everybody is human, you know, even those of us who are younger than the president, we've had instances of slipping here and there, a little stumble here and there. You know, I don't think it's a big deal at all. And I think it depends on the way that we spin this thing. You know, look, the president stumbled and somebody grabbed him before he got down, and then he's back up again, and he proceeded with every other assignment that he had to do on that day. So it did not affect his schedule. It did not affect what he went to do. He sat through all the meetings, you know, and it seems that everything is looking good. So I don't think, you know, we should belabor the issue at all. We should wish the president well. He demonstrated a bit of resilience, you know, by getting up. You know, I mean, I'm a pastor in my other vocation, and it says that a righteous man falls down 7 times, but the point is that you got to get up again. The man got up again, and that was good, and we hope that is okay. In terms of the communication, I think I will give credit on that matter to Mr. Ononuga, because he was able to explain that what happened was that the president stepped on a metal object, you know. And so if anybody, you know, step on a metal object, you know, you could lose balance even if you are not 70, you know, not talk of somebody in his 70s. So I think that to the extent that Mr. Ononuga was quick to explain that, look, this was what happened, he stepped out of line on a metal object, you know, at which instance he then tripped and stumbled, you know. So I think the communication was fairly managed. The other thing that I would like to say is that, because I have also been in situations where, you know, the principal is out like that, and how the formation of the main body ought to be, you know, there ought to be people in front of the president watching his every step, you know, and I think the ADC was, you know, was actually the person who grabbed him before he fell. Normally the ADC is supposed to be at the back, you know, but thank goodness he was right there in the front. You could see it. There are people whose job, and I don't want to put them on the spot, there are people whose job is to watch the step of the president. You know, there are people in protocol, there are people in security. The chief security officer is normally at the back, you know, just like with the ADC, you know. So, but there are people who are supposed to be in the front. Those are the people who should have been aware of every step the president is going to make before he makes it. That's part of their job, especially the people doing protocol. It's part of their job. You should know that this is where the president is going to go. This is where he's going to turn. That is why people are sent on recce ahead of presidential visits. They get to go 3-4 days ahead. They go and meet the host country. They look at the schedule. Where will the president sit? Where will he be walking? Where is he going to make a turn? How everything, they ought to have gone through it completely, totally, so that they're not taken by surprise. And before the president comes, they ought to have seen that the president is going to be going on this track, and to be sure that those places are free. So that is the area that I think we need to pay more attention to, so that we can avoid, I mean, the thing could have been avoided, because if somebody spotted that there's a metal object there, somebody is keeping an eye on the steps of the president, they would have caught it.
Well, we have to leave this other matter. This call for stiffer penalties for vote buying for 2027 election. There's still a lot of time to look at that matter. Yeah. So we'll definitely catch this one when this one happens much later. So thank you for coming on, Wilt. At this point,
Thanks so much.
All right, that wraps it up today as well on the program. We thank you all for watching. We will see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain. Goodbye.
And I'm Ayo, marking the business mornings on the hour. Enjoy the rest of your day.